Hello everyone, this is Zeleros, and today I wanted to review some of the new Hearthstone cards in the upcoming Gadgetzan expansion. So the first card I wanted to go over was the Druid Legendary of the set. Kun the Forgotten King. A 10 mana 7/7, choose one, gain 10 armor, or refresh your mana crystal. Now we've never had a 10 mana choose one effect before, so it's pretty interesting there. This card is incredibly powerful. You have the option to refresh all of your mana crystals and be able to play more stuff on the same turn while getting a big body. This really makes up for a lot of the problems with big minions in that if it's removed, you lose way too much tempo and it's just not as cost effective. This makes up for that downfall with the option to still go even more of a controlling route and gain life instead. The options with this card, especially with a card like Fandral in play, it can have massive tempo swings and is just a really, really good card. I think this card will be played in a lot of Druid decks. The next card is Lunar Visions, a 5 mana Druid spell. Draw 2 cards, minions drawn cost 2 less. Now this is an interesting card. It lets you possibly get minions out faster, which can be really, really useful. But if you don't draw any minions at all, it's just an incredibly bad arcane intellect. So it has potential in much more minion-heavy Druid decks, but the downside is so great that I really don't think this card is going to see much constructed play at all. It's just so one way or the other. There is no middle ground with this card. And at the same time, in the 5 mana slot, you have Nourish, which is draw 3 cards and still gives you the option of ramping at the same time. It seems a lot like an underpowered Nourish card. I don't think it's going to see very much play at all. Next card is Pilfered Power. 3 mana Druid spell, gain an empty mana crystal for each friendly minion. It's just such a wonky card. I really don't think this card is going to see any play whatsoever. It doesn't have a place at all. It's meant for more zoo or token style decks, so like Token Druid, but those kind of decks don't really want to ramp. And in a ramp style deck, you're not going to have that many minions on board, especially on turn 3. So you're going to have much more value out of just a simple Innervate or Wild Growth. There's really no point in putting this card in your deck over other ramp spells. It's really not that great. Even this card is even worse in Arena. It's just not going to see any play whatsoever. Next on the list is Mark of the Lotus, a 1 mana Druid spell, give your minions +1/+1. Now, we already have Power of the Wild, which gives your minions +1/+1, or summons a 3/2 minion, and this is like half that effect for half the mana. Some token style decks might want to use it. I don't see this card ever being used over Power of the Wild. I could see it being used in tandem with it for even bigger tempo swings, maybe even to finish off a game, but it's just an okay card. It might see a home in some, like I said, some token style decks, but it's nothing game breaking. As for Arena, this card might see some decent play. It's a common and it's a buff to all your minions, so with the occurrence bonus, it could see some decent value in Arena. It's a pretty decent card. Next card I want to go over is Cabal Courier. 3 mana 2/2, Battlecry, discover a Mage, Priest, or Warlock card. And this is obviously one of the cards that can only be used in one of those 3 classes, so it can be pretty interesting. I think this card, it might not see too much play in Constructed, just because of how well refined the decks are, but I do feel like it's going to see some play. Being able to discover a card outside of your own class can drastically increase the combo potential. Warlocks getting healing cards, or priests getting removal cards from mages, that can really swing a game in the right direction for you. So I think this card has potential. I don't think it's going to see too crazy much play, but it's got potential. It's a decent card. The next card is Caucus. 4 mana, 3/3. Battle Cry. If your deck contains no duplicates, create a custom spell. This is only available in Mage, Priest, and Warlock, so you can't use it in any other control decks. But it's got that Reno effect to it. Now, I love Reno Jackson. I think the decks that Reno Jackson creates are incredibly fun, very unique. I don't think this guy is going to have the same effect as Reno. It is a powerful card. The spells that you get from it are very, very powerful. They can really swing a game in your favor, especially when you choose the mid to late game ones. If you want to hold on to that in a control game, it's going to be huge tempo advantage for you. This card goes really well with Reno Jackson. It's a very good card on its own if you have the certain deck to go with it. I think this card is going to do very well initially, but I think one thing a lot of people aren't really considering is the next standard cycle. Very soon, the expansion after Gadgetzan is going to remove a lot of cards, especially the big ones from League of Explorers like Reno Jackson. I don't think Caucus alone is worth building a one-of deck. It's not as powerful, and it doesn't give you an advantage like Reno Jackson does. So the second Reno Jackson's out of standard, I think this card will probably just die off. Until that happens, though, I think all Reno Jackson decks are going to have this guy in it. Very unique card. I'm looking forward to playing with him in my Reno decks. It's going to be a lot of fun. Next on the list is Lotus Agents. 5 mana, 5/3. Battle Cry, discover a Druid, Rogue, or Shaman card. This is obviously only usable in Druid, Rogue, or Shaman. So I think it's the same as the Courier. You have a decent card, nothing too crazy. Not really going to see that much play in constructed decks because of how refined it is. You only have a limited amount of space for your cards. But the option to discover a card outside of your class does, again, give you so much more options. Like a Shaman with Doomhammer, being able to discover attack increasing cards from Druid, like Claw, for example. And that potential might make it very useful for certain decks. Has potential, might see a little bit of play. It's a great card in Arena. We'll see. It's not too bad. Very good. I think it's a decent card. Next is Grime Street Informant. 2 mana, 1/1. Battle Cry, discover a Hunter, Paladin, or Warrior card. Obviously, can only be used in one of those 3 classes. Now, this card is just like the other 2. It's got that potential to discover a card out of your class, makes some unique combos available, makes decks a little bit more unique. Still got the same idea as the other 2. Probably not going to see too much constructed play, just because of how refined some decks are, but it does give options to a lot of control decks that the other 2 cards do not. Similar to Jeweled Scarab, it's a very low-cost minion, so it has more potential to combo with other cards, especially cards like Brand Bronzebeard, where Lotus Agents is 5 mana. You're going to have to wait until turn 8 to combo that with Brand Bronzebeard on the same turn. So this card does have that advantage, but same as before, it's a decent card. In Arena, it's probably going to be really good. Small minion, gives you something to fight for the board. Discover a powerful card later, maybe not even from your class. So, it's okay. Decent card. Next is Patches the Pirate. 1 mana, 1/1. Pirate, charge. After you play a pirate, summon this minion from your deck. I think this minion is pretty bad. Pirate decks aren't really the most popular decks. They're not really the greatest decks in the meta. It has some combo potential with certain cards. They did display such crazy combos at BlizzCon, but that's not really reliable. It's not going to happen very often. And just a 1/1 charge, it's okay. Nothing really crazy here. It's not. If you want to make a pirate deck, you put this guy in it. Having that extra 1/1 ping can be useful, but this card's not really going to see play. It's not that good. especially in Arena. Getting this guy as your draft in Arena is pretty awful. Next on the list is Friendly Bartender. 2 mana, 2/3. At the end of your turn, restore 1 health to your hero. Now, I absolutely love this card. It's not the greatest card, but it's a perfect control card. It lets you fight for the early game while still giving you a little bit of extra health to fight. It's very anti-aggro. So when the opponent's pushing much more face, even though it's only 1 life, it's still that one little extra point that you might need to win the game and come back later on. A lot of games are often decided by 1 point of health, so that can really, really help out in the early game. I don't think it's going to see too much constructed play. I think this card is great for Arena. It's a 2 mana, 2/3. It's common. Health restoration. It's just a decent card overall in Arena. I personally am going to be playing with this card a lot in some of my control decks, maybe even like a Reno Jackson deck for a little while. Just a one-of, a little bit more health restoration. I think it's a decent card. Some others might disagree with that. I think it's fun though. Last card I wanted to go over today is Mistress of Mixtures. 1 mana, 2/2, Death Rattle, restore 4 health to both players. Now I think this is a slightly underrated card right now. I think this is a perfect anti-aggro tool, just like the Bartender I just reviewed. I think this is very much evidence that Blizzard is trying to push control decks a little higher now. We have a 1 mana 2/2, which is very similar in concept to Zombie Chow, where it provides you with a slightly higher statted minion in the early game just to heal back that damage. So like, it's not meant to do face damage, it's meant to fight for the board. And the fact that this restores health to both players lets you throw this down on turn 1 or 2, attempt to stop an aggressive player's deck, and then heal back that damage that you might have just taken while they were going face or fighting for the board or something. That idea right there is really, really good. It's exactly what we need more of. Control decks having lower cost minions to fight for the board and keep them alive. And that still lets you play this in a later game and kill it any way you need to restore health to yourself. I think it's a great card, but I think it's just a very similar card to Zombie Chow, and might see some constructed play for that. I think it's an okay Arena card. It's a common 1 mana 2/2, not too bad, but it'll see some decent results in Arena, I think. It's overall pretty decent card, I think. Well, that's it for this review of the new cards in Gadgetzan for the next Hearthstone expansion. I hope you enjoyed. I hope my ideas gave you a little bit more insight into the game, or different combinations, or anything like that. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys next time.